Nando, if you don't know. So with today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a or we're just gonna work with player movement. So we're just gonna do very basic player movement. That's gonna help us move left and right and apply gravity to our player. With this, you should be able to kind of come up with your own little game. I'm just giving you the basics of it. For other classes, we'll start making other pieces of a big game, and then when like 5 classes in, we'll put everything together. But for now, today we're going to learn the basics of player movement. So to start off, let's click on create. There should be a create button. It says blue. It's a blue button up here. Just click on create, and then this will start loading, and then you should see this kind of screen when you create the project. Okay. Now you should be familiar with this. If you aren't, let me just go through this quickly. This is your code tab. So in your code tab, you have various different blocks, like various blocks that you can use. Each one is colored differently because each one has different actions for the game. Here on the left, you can see blue is for motion, purple is for looks, and so on and so forth. So you guys can, when you guys follow along, if you guys get a little lost, you guys can just look at the color, and then you can kind of look for the correct, color that I'm selecting, and you guys can put that on. And then we have costumes. So we're not gonna do too much of the costumes today. We're just gonna do our basic cat for our game. And then we sounds, we're not gonna work with sounds today. Okay, so we have code. So we're mainly gonna be working with code. On the right-hand side, you see a little cat here. So this is your actual game that you're seeing. If you click on your cat and you move it, you're able to move the cat anywhere. But what you're seeing here is what you're gonna see in the game. And then on the bottom is basically your properties of that object. So here you have your sprite, where it's located, the size of your sprite, and where it's facing, and then other sprites in the bottom. So you can click any sprite, and you can grab like the properties of that object. Okay. So and then we're not going to be dealing with backdrops, so don't worry too much about backdrops. It's a later class. Okay. So let's get started.
Min, what's your grade? Shelly? What's Min's grade level? Second grade. Great. Okay. Is he familiar with Scratch?
So I don't think he's done Scratch before. He's just done some coding on code.org with his school.
It looks a little bit
which is I think is
similar,
different.
kind of.
Okay. So Min, if you don't understand anything, stop and ask question. Okay. So I typed the commands for you. Mom can help you with that. Control D is to mute, unmute your microphone. It alternates between mute and unmute. And then video, Control E, the letter E as in Edward. That is to turn on camera or off. So right now the camera is not important. Your screen sharing is important, and then also the mute unmute function is important. So try that. Try using that. Great. Okay.
Okay, so let's get started. Let's start off first by creating our small map or small platform. To create our platform, we're going to click here. There's a small button with the little cat sign. We're going to click on the paintbrush because we're going to paint our small platform. So we're going to click on that, and you should get this kind of screen. Okay, this is your vector drawing screen. So we're going to keep it at vector. We don't want bitmap. So what we're going to do first, what we want to do is we want to create some platforms. So we're just going to click on a rectangle, and I'm just going to make a rectangle down here. I don't want it purple. I want to change it to black. So something like this. So I have my black platform here. And then I'm going to draw another square here. Something like this. And another square here. That, and another one here. Okay, you don't have to be super precise, or you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing, you can just draw, squares in the screen. As long as the character is able to jump from platform to platform. If you want to delete something, just click on the mouse here where it says select. Click on that and then click the object you want to delete. You can move it if you don't like it in that position, or you can just press backspace to delete that object. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep it like this. Okay, so this is my my platform. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to make this platform be centered to the to the screen. So here, if you take a look, if I click on the platform just made, if I move it around, right, I can move the platform around, but that's not the point of this platform. This platform should just stay in the center. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to reset its position every time. We want to switch it to 0, 0, 0. So if I change this to 0 here on the X and change 0 to Y here, it changes to exactly in the middle. Okay, and we can do this by programming by doing this. So we click on the sprite, make sure the sprite 2 is clicked, the background. Go here where it says code. Okay, and then we're gonna grab this orange, sorry, it's yellow, yellow block called when the flag is clicked. When we have that, we're gonna go to the blue one and we're going to go to 0, 0. Okay, so very simple. All we're gonna do is when it's press flag, this reset. So let's just say we accidentally moved it. All we need to do is press the flag and then the thing goes back to its position, goes back to 0, 0. Okay, so make sure you have from events, the yellow one. You click and drag this outside and then go to the blue one and then click on go to. If you have numbers, that's fine. Just click and drag it out here and then change those numbers to 0 and then change this number to 0. Okay, so now that's done. Now let's move on to our sprite. So our sprite, if you take a look, our sprite is pretty big. I don't like the size of this, so I'm going to make it smaller. So I'm going to click on the cat or click it down here, whichever one, and then I'm going to go here. There's a property called size, and then I'm going to change this size from 100 to 45. So our cat's going to be this small. Okay.
I think Min has a question.
Yes. What's your question, Min?
Min, go ahead and ask.
How do you delete the? I accidentally made too many platforms.
Okay, if you want to delete something, so here on the costumes, this is the screen you have, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So just click on the mouse. There's a mouse here. It says select. You just click on that. Okay. Once you click on that, then select the blocks you want to delete. And then it should highlight blue. And then just click the backspace to delete that object.
Okay. You can put backspace again.
You got it?
No.
He accidentally deleted everything. Okay, but I think he got the idea now.
Awesome.
He's gonna redraw because he accidentally deleted everything. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Mhm.
Now what?
Okay. So once we have that, again, what we want to do is we want to reset this position. So click on Sprite 2, okay, and make sure the code tab is open. Okay, so make sure you click on code, and then you just have to drag these two blocks. So when the flag is clicked, and then the blue on the go to, you just click and drag it and put it in here. Okay, so you're just resetting the position of this this object. Okay, and then also make sure your sprite is at size. I put 45. If you want to get smaller, you can, or if you want to be a little bit bigger, that's fine too. I changed the size here to 45. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is, of course, we want to move the character on the left and right. So we know that left and right on this on games, left and right is X. Okay, the X-axis. Up and down is our Y-axis. So our X-axis, if you guys remember, are like a number line. our x-axis here. Let's just here. Let me actually bring up the whiteboard.
How do you delete blocks?
You just if you want to delete blocks, you can click the block you don't want and then drag it here, and it goes away. Put it on to where all the rest of the code is.
Okay.
Hold on. Actually, let me. I am presenting the wrong thing. I present my entire screen instead.
Let me see. I'm gonna see if I could log onto Google Meet on another device, because I think switching back and forth between screens for him to see and do is a little hard.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So we have.
Just pay attention.
Don't
to,
change
okay, okay,
the website.
okay, okay. Just watch that.
So we have our left and right. So we know that this. Let's just say this is our number line, right? And we know that our numbers, we start at 0, right? And then if we move 1, we go to 1. Go to the next one, we go to 2, and then 3, right? And then so on and so forth, right? Until we get to infinity. Oops, that's a horrible infinity. Infinity, right? A positive infinity. Now, if we go on the other side, so this is going to the positive side. If I go to so this is my right side. If I go to my left side, this is going to be my negative side. Okay. So if I go to my negative side here, I'll move on to -1, -2, -3, and so on and so forth until we get to negative infinity. So yeah, so here we have our positive infinity, negative infinity, and this is our x-axis. Okay. Okay. Now, if I want to go up and down, my up and down is going to be almost the same as this. We have our 0 here, and this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is -1, -2, -3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so going up is positive, going down is negative, going right is positive, going left is negative. Okay, so remember, this is our x and this is our y-axis. Okay, y is up and down. Knowing that, here on our thing, we want to move on the left and right. That means we'll be working with the x-axis. So here we're going to grab, so we're going to click on our cat, and then we're going to grab our control, our event, I mean. So when our flag is clicked, I want to forever check something. What do I want to check? I want to check if I press my keys. So I'm going to click on this one, if, and here it's asking, what do you want to check for? I'm going to go to sensing, and I'm going to say, if, change this to, oops, sorry, not touching. Key pressed. Here you go. So if I press the left arrow, okay, my left arrow, that means I'm in my x-axis. So left, remember, is going negative. Okay, so we're moving our x by negative. So here I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to say change x by negative. I'm just going to put, what number should I put? Like 5, maybe -5. I think that's fine. Okay. Maybe -2. And then what we want to do is we want to do this again, exactly the same, except instead of left, we're now doing right. Okay, so we're going to grab the same blocks again. I'm going to grab a if, put it down here. Okay, so this is one if, this is the other if. In this if, we're looking for the key. Instead of going left, we're now going right. Okay, So here it says left arrow, and here I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to look for right arrow. Once I go to my right, I am going to move on my x-axis, so change x. Instead of -2, now I'm going to change it by 2. Okay? Now when you press play, when you press the flag, now you should be able to move. So see how my cat is moving? Right? My cat is moving left and right. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about this? And I'll take that as a no. All right. So the next thing we want to do is let's make this a little bit cleaner. Reason why we want to make this a little bit cleaner, because when we change our velocity, usually in video games, what happens is this character, or when it starts to move, and you stop moving, this character usually doesn't stop immediately. It starts to decelerate, kind of like a car. You know, when you do the brakes, you don't immediately brake. You start like coming to a slow stop. This is optional. So I sometimes, it depends on what kind of game you're making. Sometimes the game doesn't require that kind of slowing. It's called dampening. But if it does, then easy way you can do this is that you can have a variable that you change that variable by a number, and you multiply that number by, just to say, like 0.7, which is 70% of that number, and that number slowly starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So now your velocity, so you're slowly coming to a stop. You don't immediately just turn to 0. You just slowly come to a stop. Now, again, this is optional for this one because this is very simple movement. We're not going to do it. But again, it depends on what kind of game you're making. If you're making a game that requires that slow movement coming to a stop, then multiplying by that number would make it go slower. It's called dampening. Okay. So now that we finished our x-axis, our x-axis, now we move on to the harder part. The harder one is the y-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab another block of these. So when flag is clicked, so let's see. Oops. Yeah, when flag is clicked, and I want to forever do something, okay? So make sure you have these two blocks. Okay. Once we have these two blocks, what we want to do is we want to check if the character's in the air. If the character is in the air, what should happen? Gravity should happen. The character should fall until it touches one of these sprites, right? Once it touches the sprite. If it touches the sprite, then the gravity stops. Well, technically gravity keeps on going, but your direction going down should stop. It shouldn't keep going. So, for example, if I have my character here, this is the velocity. Velocity is the speed of something. So my speed going down is 0. But then once I reach here to the edge, my velocity starts to pick up because gravity starts to pull me down. Okay. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to check if I am touching the floor. My floor is called Sprite 2. So here I'm going to say if and then I go to my blue one, if touching Sprite 2. Okay. So if I'm touching the Sprite 2, then I want to do something. Now here I'm missing something. Here I'm missing an else. Why do I care about else? Because that means if I'm not touching the floor, then I should be falling. If I am touching the floor, then I shouldn't be falling. So here we actually don't need this if. We need an if else. So this one. If, then do something, else do something else. So here I'm going to grab this one in here. I'm going to put this sprite in here, in the touching thing. Okay. So we have forever. If I'm touching sprite 2, that means I'm touching the floor. Then I want to do something. Else, I don't want to do something. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to do motion. So I'm going to go back to motion. And since we're dealing with up and down is our y-axis. So here I'm going to change y. So I'm going to grab this one, change y by -1. This is going to be my gravity. Okay. If I am touching my sprite, what should my change of y be? My change of y should be 0. So change this one by 0. Okay. We technically don't even need it, but I'm just going to keep it so you guys can see that here. If I am touching the floor, nothing is going to happen. So I'm going to change it to 0. If not, then I'm going to go -1. So now if I press play, now this will happen. So I reach the floor, and now my gravity starts to take over. Okay. And of course, you can make this this number bigger. Let's just say if you want a higher gravity. So if I do like -10, and I put this here, my character falls down quicker. Okay, but there is a problem. If you let's just say I'm here, right, and I'm dropping. You see how the cat kind of intersects this this block, this sprite. What happens here is that your character is it's do you guys know what FPS is? Frames per second. So here the frames, what's going on is the frames are not refreshing too much. So when the thing resets, I lost my cat. When the thing detects the collision, it's too late, so it goes on maybe 1-2 pixels 2 pixels wide. There is a fix to this, but then the code just starts to get a little bit harder. But for now, we're just gonna keep it like that. Okay. So here we're just gonna say change y by, I'm gonna do like -2, maybe -4. How that works. Oh, I bring my cat here, and then I fall. And this is something I like. Okay. Okay. So do you guys have any questions about this yet? No. Okay. All right. So again, this is a very simple movement. Now, the next thing we want to do, of course, is jump. So I like jumping with my spacebar. If you like jumping with your up arrow, that's fine too. You guys can change it to whatever key you want. So what I want to do here is I'm going to continue with the Y because when you jump, you still work with the Y axis. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look for an if. Let's see, control. I'm going to look for an if block. And then here, we want to say, if I'm touching the sprite, and I'm also going to look for something else, because I can only jump if I'm on the floor. If I'm in the air, I can't jump anymore. Okay, so I only want to jump if I'm in the floor. So here where it says if touching sprite 2, my change of y would be 0. And then here I'm going to check for something else. I'm going to check, did I press the spacebar button or your up button, whatever button you want. So I'm going to go to sensing, and here I'm going to click on key pressed. Okay, so here I'm just going to leave it as spacebar. So here it says if the spacebar is pressed, then I want to do something. So what I want to do is I want to change my y by a bigger number. So click here on motion, and we're going to change y by, I'm just going to leave it default by 10. So now if I press play, Yeah, I don't want to do space anymore. Let's do up arrow. It's easier. Okay, this is the effect I should be getting. Now, of course, this looks weird because our character is just jumping, bobbing up and down, up and down. So we have a problem, okay? To fix this problem, what we need to do is we actually need to keep a variable in check. So basically, every time the loop works, we need to slowly decrement or decrease how much our y is changing by, okay? So to do that, we're going to work with variables. So if you haven't worked with variables before, or do you know what variables are? So let me just quickly give you a thing. So if you haven't done the code, I'll just leave the code here. All right. So if you don't know what variables are, I'll quickly show you. So variables basically hold a value. It can be symbolized by a letter or some symbol. So for example, if I have 2 plus blank equals 5, right? You guys should have seen this in elementary school. Here, we have a number plus something, right? And we want to see what is this something, right? To figure this out, right, we need to remember, okay, what do I need to go into, how much do I need to get to 5? In this case, the answer is 3, right? So 2 plus 3 equals 5. So then here, this space thing acted like our variable. Our variable was this blank thing. So now if we reorder all of this and say 5 minus 2 equals blank, right? So what is the answer to this? What is 5 minus 2? 5 minus 2 would be equal to 3, right? So here, all I did is just reorder what you see here into this, okay? Now, the reason why I reordered it, because in programming, your variable name, which is this one, I'm just going to see VN, variable name, is on the left-hand side, okay? Then we have our equal sign. Huh? Then we have our equation. Okay, so in programming, it's very important to remember this this way of making a variable. Here we have the variable name, which in this case we're using an underscore, but in programming we sometimes use an actual name or word. So here I can say X instead, or I can say Y, or I can say gravity. So GRAVITY, right? I can name it whatever I want as long as I remember what what this word is, and then that can replace the value. Okay, so every time you say this letter, you know exactly what the value is. In this case, this is the value, the equation. Okay. All right. So that's how variables work. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the orange one, and it says variables. Variable, and we're going to create one variable for now. So we're going to click on make variable, and we're going to click here for this sprite only. Okay, so in this for sprite only, we're going to make a variable called y, and velocity. Okay, so that means how fast I'm going on the y direction, going up or down, right? So here, make sure you click on for this sprite only, because we're only going to make the velocity for this sprite. So we're going to click on OK. Okay. Now on the left-hand side, you now should see a block called y velocity. Okay. And it should be shown up here. We're going to remove this soon, but for now, let's just keep it. Okay. And as y velocity is going to keep track of how fast I'm going on my y-axis. Okay. Now, to change, we're going to change this. We're going to change this to look something like this, where we are going to keep track of our y velocity. So when we start off the bat, when we start our velocity, so we're going to change here my variable to y velocity. Okay, so we're going to change our y velocity. We're going to click on this one, set our y velocity to 0. When we start Of course, we shouldn't be flying up in the air, or we shouldn't be falling down quickly. We should be starting at 0. Once we start, gravity starts taking over, and then from there we can start moving. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to remove these change y by a number. We only want to do this change once after we do all the calculation of, am I going onto the floor, or am I jumping, or am I just on the falling? What am I doing? So depending on what I'm doing, that's where I want to move. Okay. So I'm going to remove these blue blocks, the change by, because we don't need them anymore. Oops. Okay, so I got rid of the blue blocks, and you can just click on them and just press delete. It should go away, or just drag them here and they go away. Okay. So now we have our forever block. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to forever change our y velocity. So we're going to go to the blue one, and we're going to change y, our y-axis. So forever change my y. Oops, it's going up. So we're going to change our y by our velocity. So here, y velocity. Okay. Now, what is y velocity? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to define what y velocity is. Okay. So easiest thing to do first is whenever I'm not touching the floor, when I'm not touching Sprite 2, I want to change. So here I'm going to change this to y velocity. I'm going to change y velocity by, here I'm going to change it to -1. Okay. So it's going to slowly decrease your velocity down to -1. So that means you're going to start falling to the floor. Okay. Then if I'm not touching the floor, let's see, if I am touching the floor and I'm not pressing up and down our jump arrow, so here we actually need to transform this one into an if else, because we want to check if I'm touching the floor and I'm not pressing the space button, then I want to jump. So I'm going to change this to this, if else, and move that, and then remove this. And then we have this here. Okay. So here this reads, if I'm touching the floor and I'm pressing the up arrow, that means I'm jumping. I'm on the floor and I want to jump. So what do I need to do? I need to change my velocity. So change velocity. Sorry, not change. Set velocity. Set velocity to a jump to, let's just say, like 12. Right? I want to jump by 12. So I'm going to go up by 12. Okay. If I'm not, then I want to set my velocity to 0. That means I'm on the floor and I don't want to jump. So where should I move on my y-axis? I shouldn't move anywhere because I'm already on the floor. I don't want to move down because it doesn't make sense. I can't move up because gravity is not negative. I mean, it's not inverse. Okay? So now when you press play, you should get something like this. Okay? And then our character falls, and then our character keeps on falling. Okay? And now when I jump, I should get this effect. And that's a better effect. Okay. Okay, and of course I can change my my X speed. So instead of 2, I can change this to like negative, oops, not 85, like -5. I change this to 5 to make our character go faster. There's here, I can move my left and right, and I can move my character. Okay. You have any questions?
How do you start playing?
To start playing, you see there's a green flag up here. You see there's a red stop, and then there's a green flag. Just click on the green flag, and then your game starts. Sage, do you have any questions?
Not really.
Okay, cool. Okay. If there's no questions, then let's move on. The next thing we want to do is, there is a small problem with this. So if I go like on the floor, like on the ground here, and start to jump, you see how our character starts getting stuck. So The reason why it's getting stuck because technically that is what it's supposed to do. You're asking if the player is, you know, touching the sprite, which technically this is the floor. Um, so this one does include a little bit more calculations. If I'm not gonna get into it because the calculations, I think I'll lose you guys with the calculations. So we're not gonna do that. So just we're just gonna ignore that by now. And another problem we have is grab if we grab the cat and start going up, you see how our y velocity starts skyrocketing to a big number. Yeah. So if I grab him and start, you know, just grab him like this, so our y velocity does start getting, you know, very big. So if I let go of the cat, he's just gonna slam all the way into the floor. The reason why that happens is because our y velocity gets too big, and then because you're telling it to skip that many pixels, um, you know, you're telling it to skip that many pixels. That's why it jumps from here all the way to the floor. And the way you can fix this is also adding a dampening to this y velocity. You're supposed to get you're supposed to divide the velocity by itself and then multiply by -1 in order to get a dampening effect. So let's do that since you guys we still have some time. Let's do that. So to do the dampening effect, what we're gonna do is make sure you guys follow along because this one does get tricky. Because we're gonna do some arithmetics, some division, and then grabbing the absolute value of an object. So first thing, absolute value just means the positive of something. So if I have a number, let's just say like -10, right? And if I do absolute value of this, this just gives me 10. Okay. If I have a number like 20, and I want to grab the absolute value of this gives me 20. Okay. Absolute value just gives you the positive number of an object. It's mainly used for distancing. So if there's some sort of distance between you and another object, usually you don't want to go negative. You know, I'm not negative 10 inches away. I'm just 10 inches away. So that's the positive you know, distance of an object. Or time, right? With time, there's no such thing as negative time. You can't go back in time. You can only say, you know, I am 10 seconds late. I'm not negative 10 seconds early. Well, that doesn't make sense. But if you reverse everything, it makes sense. But here we don't deal with negative, so that's why we have to work with absolute values. And then this is absolute value. It's and the note is ABS. That's short for absolute value. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to grab an absolute value thing, and then we want to divide the absolute value of y divided by the absolute value, and then multiply by -1. So this gives us back how much distance, what direction are we traveling. So if we're getting a positive value, that means we are dropping. If we're getting a negative value, we're ascending. Okay, we only care if the value is going down. Okay, so that's why we have to say if my absolute value. So not if, sorry. So here we have our absolute value. So we grab the absolute value, we put it in here on the first block, and then absolute value is going to be of my y velocity divided by my y velocity. Okay. So this here is going to be my positive divided by either this is a negative or a positive. Okay. Once we get that, we either get a -1 or a 1, right? Because the number divided by itself, it's always itself. So 1 billion divided by 1 billion, it's just 1. So here you're just dividing itself. Here we're just figuring out, am I going up or am I going down, right? If I get a positive velocity, that means I'm traveling down. If I'm getting if I'm getting a negative velocity, I'm going up. Okay, because let's just say I'm going, you know, -10. If I'm going -10, so it's 10 divided by -10. So that means I'm going up. Okay, so and then here we want to reverse this direction because depending on where we're going, that's where we want to go down. So here I'm just gonna grab this. I'm gonna put it up in one of the blocks. Okay, because you can put it here or you can put it on this block, whichever one. because multiplying the property of multiplying, if you do one number or the other number, it's the same thing. If you do 3 times 4, 4 times 3, it's literally the same. Okay, so you can do whichever whole. And here we're multiplying by -1. So we want to get the negative direction of it. So if I'm going up, I'm going down, down, up. Okay. So now that we have that, what we want to do is we want to change my y direction by this. So I want to go to motion. I want to say change y. So change y by this number. Okay. So depending on where I am. Now, here, depending on where I am, also depends on if I'm touching the sprite. So if I am touching the sprite, so here where I have, I'm touching the sprite, I want to...
So Min has a quick question.
Yes, what's your question, Min?
His screen on the iPad's too small to see. So what's that sign before the -1? Is that plus?
No, this is multiplication. Multiplication, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
So multiplication, you're multiplying. So in programming, you don't see this number. You don't see this anymore. So like in regular arithmetic, you see like 3 times 2, right? This is the multiplication sign, right? And in programming or in higher grades of math, you use a dot. In programming, you use a star. Okay, so like 3 times 2, or 3 times 2 in computers. Okay, so that's what multiplying is. Yep. Okay, and we want to change this only if we're touching the Sprite 2. So here we are checking for Sprite 2, and what I want to do is put this in here. Okay. Now this is going to give me an error. Reason why? Because here, regardless of where I am, I'm still going to touch. I'm still going to move my direction. So here, if you take a look at what's going to happen, right? I go here, and then I get, I still get thrown all the way to the floor because what I want to do is I want to work with this. Only if I am. I want to check the floor, and then if I am on the floor, then it should go up. If I'm up, I want to go down. So I want to be basically where the the floor meets. So we need another piece of code. So here, oops, we need. I'm just gonna pull this one out. Sorry if I make this confusing. All I'm doing is just pulling this thing out. Okay. So here, this thing we just created. What we want to do is we want to check for if I touch the floor, if I'm touching the floor. So I want to repeat this, or let's see. I want to repeat. I want to repeat this. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I want to repeat this several times, and I want to check if I'm touching the floor. If I am touching the floor, then change my Y position. Okay, so here, let's go to touch. So if I'm touching Sprite 2, which is my floor, then I want to move my velocity depending on where I am. If I'm too much on the floor, I want to go up. If I'm up, if I'm too far up, I want to go down. Okay, and then how many times I want to move depends on how many. Here, I mean, here I'm just gonna put 2. We don't need to do this many times. The character just has to go up or down. So then here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it after, or before we're doing the up arrow. Okay, so before we're doing the up arrow, we're gonna repeat this 2 times, and let's see how this works. Just goes, and it's there, and I go up. Okay, and then I should be able to. I'm able to be on the floor. Okay, you guys have any questions? No. Okay. The last thing we need to do is here instead of two, we actually want to do is we want to repeat this depending on where you are. So if you're flying really far from down, we want you to bounce back to its original position or to the position where it's supposed to be, or like right above the block. And so just to do that, it's just a simple by depending on how much velocity you have. So here our velocity, but remember our velocity can be negative. So what we need to do is make it positive. So change this by absolute value of velocity and just stick it in here. Okay, and that should help you if you fall too much on the floor. If you see that, you see how my cat sometimes drops too much to the floor. It slowly gets picked up by one going up. Okay, and then that also happens if you are on the so here on the top of the blocks, if you bump into it, it slowly starts to push you down. You don't get stuck in those blocks. And if you're stuck on the top, if you're stuck on the bottom, it pushes you back up. Okay. There is another way of doing this. It's a little more complicated, but this is the simplest way I can think of showing you how to how to do this. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. And then one more thing we want to do is we want to change our character's position, or sorry, rotation. So depending on where the character is looking at, for example, right now it's looking to the right. So if I move to the right, it should move. If I move to the left, it should flip and then view that direction. So to change that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to motion, and here we're going to change to point direction. Okay, so point in direction. So now there's also a another problem. If I just change this, let's just put this here. If I'm going to the right, I'm going point in direction of 90 degrees, and I think that should be right. Right, so put this line, yeah, 90 degrees. So then I put this one here, and I put -90. That means I'm going viewing the other way. So now when I flip this, it's gonna look like this. So here, this is a problem. The problem is the character is flipping like in a circle. By default, Scratch has this rotation by a circle, or yeah, by a circle. So what we need to do is we need to click on this sprite, and sorry, and then what we need to do is where is it? Where's the linear stuff? Oh, I think they removed it from this one. Oh well. So it looks like they removed it from this version. I can't see the linear version, the linear flip. That's fine. Um, Here you go. Set rotation styles instead of left to right. All around. Yes, here you go. So if you change this, that I think it should change it. It should be this. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, so set rotation style. So they changed it from it was supposed to be in costumes. There's a button here, a little toggle. So here, what you do is you grab this one. It's called set rotation style, and then there's two types of rotations. There's left and right. So basically, what I'm doing, so it just flips the object only on the left and right axis. And then here, all around is the circular one. So just like what we were doing, if you point -90, it's going to rotate that object pointing to a -90, so it doesn't flip it. And this in here we have left and right, so it flips only left and right. And this is exactly what we want. So now when we press play and go right, he's turning right, and going left, he's turning left. Okay. Okay. We're not gonna do animations. Animation is gonna be a next part of this video series. So we're not gonna deal with animations right now. We're only gonna do player character movement. Okay. And I haven't tested this out yet, so I don't know if I'm able to jump uh, jump on platforms, moving platforms. Let me here we have an error. Switching from 0 and 1. That should be fine. So there's no questions? Okay. Since we still have a lot more time, I thought you guys would have a lot of questions. I guess we can do a little bit of animation, just very basic animation for this guy. So when we're walking left and right, we can make him move, and then that's it. It's very basic. So to do that, what we're gonna do is, so here we're gonna make a separate thing because these two are running left and right, and this is running up and down. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab another control, and we're gonna click on the flag. So when the flag is clicked, I want to check if I'm pressing left and right, and then animate those that costume. So here I'm going to click on control forever if I'm pressing this, or if I'm pressing that. Okay. And then we also have to keep track of what costume we are in. So here I'm going to make another variable, and this variable is just for me, for the sprite. So click here on make variable, and just click for the sprite only, and then click on animate. Okay. So we have this variable animate, and this variable is only going to change from 0 to 1. So depending on what costume it's on, it's going to change to that costume. So here I'm going to press which. Oh, here you go. If I'm pressing the key, if I'm pressing the left key, actually to make this simpler, we actually don't need two if statements. We need an or. So if you scroll down here to operators, you have an or. Okay, you can drag this one to the first one. So I'm gonna say if my left key is pressed or my right key is pressed. Okay. So if my left key or right key is pressed, what do I want to do? I want to start animating the character. So here I'm going to change this to 1. Variables. Change animate. So change animate to 1. Okay. If it's not, then I'm going to change my animate to 0. So I'm going to go up here, change this to 0 here. Okay. So once we know that we can animate, what we're going to do is we're going to change our costume. So we're going to go to looks, and we're going to click on the next costume. Here. I wonder if we can do it without the variable. Yeah, let me just check something. Yeah, we need some sort of delay. Yeah, let's try without these variables. Actually, you don't. I don't think you need these variables. So just leave them out here for now. And let's see if we can just. I know if we do some times usually mess up the the movement, but let's see if we can do some sort of delay. So here, wait. So let's wait for like 0.5 seconds, okay, half a second. Right. So let's do 0.1 second. Actually, that works. Yeah, just putting a weight block, or just putting a weight and then next costume does work. And then here I put 0.1. You can make it faster or slower. So 0.05 maybe. And that can work. Yeah. Yeah, so you can get rid of the variables. And then if you want to change this animation cycle, so let's just say you want to add more animation or change how he's walking, what you can do is you can just click on Sprite and then go to the costumes. And then here, these are the two costumes the character is switching on and on. So the next costume, it's these two costumes. So if you want to change it to another costume, you can change it to however you want to draw this character. But for me, I'm just gonna keep it with two actions here, left and right. Just gonna say 2 frames. Okay. And now to get rid of this weird box, it has Y velocity and animate. So with this Y velocity and animate, you can just click on variables and just uncheck them here, and then your screen is blank now.
Can you can
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and
I
ask.
have a question.
What's your question?
When I play, then when I press play, then Sprite one just keeps flying.
It just keeps flying.
Unless I move him while it's playing. Like when it plays, then he just starts to fly through the
Okay.
and
Can
then
can I see what you can you share your screen so I can see your code?
Well, he's working off the laptop, so we're gonna have to get in again. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna have him join on the laptop and then share his screen from there.
Yeah.
Okay, man, why don't you?
I think it's you have two devices in place. I'm creating a feedback. Okay, let's take a look at your screen. Okay, let's see. Um, okay, so you have your velocity. It's climbing. So let's press stop. Hmm. Okay, and let's take a look at your. You might want to make your character a little bit smaller. You see how your character says size and then 100. Change it to 45. No, not paint a new one. Yeah, you delete that. Delete it. Yeah, click on your cat. Yeah, and then change that to like 45. Mm-hmm. It should make them smaller. There you go. Okay, so let's go back to our code. No, he's still climbing up. Go back to your code. Okay, and let's take a look at your code. Can you move more to the left? I can't see your code. It's being blocked by. No, that's yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's your problem. Your problem here, it says, let's see, on your 1, 2, 3, fourth line. Yeah, that actually goes where it says, no, don't throw it away. It's right here. It's supposed to go change y by, instead of 10, that should go in there. Yeah, there you go. Then I think that should work. Try it. Yeah. Keep going down on your code. I want to see the rest of the code. Let's see. You have your division in the wrong place. So click, see where your division is? It says change y by absolute of y velocity divided by y velocity. What you need to do is the absolute value has to be with the y velocity, and then use and the division side should go inside that. So, so look, take a look at my screen. I want to go back to my screen. Okay, so take a look at my screen. So here, where you have my divisions, the stuff. So here I have 3 blocks. I have absolute value of y division, and then I have multiply by -1. Okay, so here this absolute value goes in the first position here, divided by absolute value by y velocity. So here this goes in here, right? So this absolute value of y is divided by the velocity of y, and then this whole thing gets inside -1. Okay, so I don't know if you can see kind of like the outline where the circles go, and that's how your blocks should be. I think your blocks are missing, are out of order. Let me double check your screen. Okay, so move your absolute value of y velocity inside the division sign. That block into the division sign. Yeah, good. And then that goes there. Perfect. And then put that back where it says change y by. Good. Okay, try it now. Try to pick up your cat and put him on the white area. Yeah, press stop. Yeah. Are you able to jump? Okay. Yeah, that's the little effect that it has. It slowly brings you back up. Yeah, and then when you go to the that's the side collisions. We're not doing side collisions today, so side collisions are a little bit more challenging. But yeah, you can jump from port thing to thing. So what to make this a little bit better, make your jump speed a little bit higher. So it says here on the if space is clicked. So instead of 12, changes to around like 16. Yeah. Yeah, and then try that. Stop the game and press play again. Yeah, and then jump. Yeah, and that should help you with. Yeah, don't jump underneath the stuff. Like I said, that's a border check. With border check, it's a little bit more challenging. Yeah, just try to jump on top of the object. Okay. You guys have any other questions? Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
what's up?
so mine isn't. It also isn't going up. It just like it's not going up all the way. Just going like a little bit.
Okay, can you share your screen so I can see what's going on?
Okay. Think that.
Oh, it's just going like a little bit up.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you zoom in a little bit because I can't see, or can you make your screen bigger? Um, okay. Let's see. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh yeah, it's right here. Where it says the last one, it says set y velocity to -1. Change that to change velocity, not set velocity.
Oh.
So go to variable block. Yeah, make sure it's the y velocity. You have the wrong variable.
Okay. Thank
Does it
you.
work? Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Just so this is what this is what I had for today. Next time we're gonna do a side collision, so it's gonna fix all this weird bumping. Um, like if you go to the side like this is the weird side collisions that we have. With that, we'll fix it next time. That one takes quite a while because we are going to require a little bit more math physics. So that's going to be for next time. For today, we just did basic movement. Again, this is horizontal movement, moving on the x-axis, positive and negative, going up and down. Up is positive, down is negative. And then another keywords like velocity, uh, and then we didn't do something called um, what is it called? I forgot the word of it. I forgot the name. Dampening. Where we didn't do dampening with the X because our game doesn't require that. Again, if your game is a little it's different and requires dampening, then we could have just multiplied our here changed the X by a number. So it would have been almost the same as the velocity, except we would be multiplying by another number. And then here, other cool things you can do is, of course, add sound. Second, you can add like a little block here, and then when you touch that block, it would load level 2, and then level 3, and so on and so forth. But for now, we're just going to leave it like that. Um, yeah. So if you guys don't have any questions, Kumar, I'm going to cut short today. This is all the content I had for today.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's a good amount of time. Let's do a quick review. Let's start with Min. Min, what is a sprite, and can you show that to us?
What? What is the what?
What's a sprite? Are you talking? You are muted.
Snowball.
Or you have an echo.
It's because I'm using these devices.
I thought we got that on the other device.
You can just mute one,
What?
like mute your computer and then have your tablet open for mic.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Go
So
ahead and ask your question. Answer the question. They just asked you something.
Hmm.
Yeah, what is a
You ask
sprite?
him again.
What is a sprite?
What is his right?
It's a character or block. Or obstacles.
yeah. So remember, a sprite is, yeah, like you said, obstacles. So here, for example, we made a sprite with obstacles, and also our sprite can also be our character, right? So we have anything that we draw would be a sprite.
All right. Sage, can you hear me?
What is this?
Yeah.
Very good. Can you explain what X and Y are?
X and Y is the coordinates. X is how like the length and height, and Y is the height.
Hmm. Okay. What one new thing you learned today? Question for
Um,
Sage.
I learned that how to like set up how to like move a character, like how to make them jump, and like how to use the Y velocity.
Okay. And I heard the word gravity. Min, did you hear that word too when Fernando said something about gravity?
Answer.
I think so.
Okay, what is it and how does it work in this Scratch game?
Like if you jump, then the gravity brings you back down
All right.
the way to the floor. If you jump on the floor, it brings you back to the floor. But if you jump on top of the obstacle, then it brings you back onto the obstacle.
Very nice. Great job. Okay, do you have any question for Fernando? So that you can do some more projects on your own after this class?
Your question? If you don't say no.
Mm,
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. Very good. We'll post this lesson in the past classes page. So you're welcome to go back tomorrow. And there, nice thing is you can rewind, fast forward, pause, and look at the different things if you like to refresh and work on your own project. Very good. Sage, do you have any questions?
No.
All right.
Yeah. So tomorrow we do have another lesson on Scratch. If you guys are interested, you guys can come on by. The next one is victory conditions. So we will for this victory, I'll change it a bit. Well, we will do victory conditions and doing the side blocks. So you know what I'm talking about, like when you get in here and you start start walking weird in a weird way inside the blocks. So we're gonna fix that with the victory conditions. Again, it's just I'm just gonna make it a simplified so you guys can understand what's going on. But the main thing for next time would be victory conditions. So time-based events or scoring events. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you
Good.
guys for joining.
And if you guys are joining, or let your friends know, we need more students, and then have them buy the class before you join on this page. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll hopefully see you guys next time.
Say thank you, man.
Take care. Bye.
Say
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.